The central limit theorem can be applied not only when you're trying to find the probability of a value, but also when you're trying to find an individual x value or something along the horizontal axis where you know all of the areas or probabilities at the top. So in this example, we have a population of 52 middle school wrestlers in a particular state, and they have a normal distribution with a mean of 109.3 pounds and a standard deviation of 17.6 pounds. Again, we want to be able to understand when you have to apply the central limit theorem and when you don't. For the first example, it says for a single value. This is the same as if you're looking for an individual. You're finding the weight that separates the bottom 82% from the top 18% of middle school wrestlers. The central limit theorem does not apply to this problem. We can make a quick sketch to demonstrate the information that we know. First, we'll place our mean and our standard deviation on the graph. Next, we can place the 82% and 18% divider line. This is the boundary value we are looking for, which is the weight of the middle school wrestlers. Since we're looking for an x value, we're going to use I and V norm. I purposefully did not shade either side, and that's because it really doesn't matter if you're shading to the left or to the right. What matters is what is the area to the left of this boundary. That is the value you're going to place here when you're using I and V norm. We know this represents the bottom 82%, so that value is going to be 0.82. Since this is an x value, there is no subscript on that variable notation. We're going to need to round to 2 decimals. Remember that regardless of what your calculator looks like, everyone will be using the value of the tail to the left. So the weight of a middle school wrestler that separates the bottom 82% from the top 18% is 125.41 pounds. The next part says we're looking for the sample means. Now you're looking at the entire sample. This is how you're going to know that the central limit theorem is going to apply. You're still working with that value that separates the bottom 82% from the top 18% of wrestlers, but looking at the entire sample mean to do that value. Remember that when applying the central limit theorem, the only value that you need to be concerned about changing is your sigma. Now, the value needs to be sigma divided by the square root of n. Again, when you go into I and V norm, you're going to remember that all of your values are still placed there from the last time. So just go to the end of your current sigma and hit the division bar. Then you can do the square root divided by your n value. And make sure you close the parenthesis so that way your value calculates correctly. If you don't close the parenthesis on a calculator that allows you to choose left, right, or center, you're going to get an error. Rounding this value to 2 decimals, we get 111.53 pounds.